Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to this press conference with Taeho Bark of Korea. Mr. Bark will give a brief opening statement, and then we will take your questions. We have but 30 minutes, and I would ask once again if you could please limit yourself to but one question at a time, and if we have time, we can come back to you. Mr. Bark, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. It certainly is an honor to carry forward my candidacy for the position of Director General. In the meeting with the members today, I put forward a fundamental message, which is the need to rebuild trust. Whenever we face difficulties, I believe that problem solving must start from going back to the basics. For the WTO, this means recreating a vibrant culture for Geneva-centered negotiations. As I deeply realize and understand the current difficulties, my starting point is modest: to serve as an advocate for open dialogue. These actions shall aim at higher goals. First of all, to strengthen the trust between members and the Secretariat. Ultimately, if members can be assured with the highest confidence of my role as an honest broker, we will be able to move towards final agreement of the negotiations. Let me add a few words regarding my candidacy. I have worked as an academic and a practitioner of trade as trade minister, as chairman of Trade Remedy Agency. I have experienced both the offensive side and defensive side of trade policy, and have conciliated different interests of exporters, importers, and producers and consumers. I have unique background. I was born during the Korean War and grew up in a poor and shattered country. During my lifetime, things changed dramatically. I witnessed firsthand what can be achieved. I firmly believe that any country can move forward if provided with the right kinds of help and circumstances. Korea did not reach its current level of development on its own. We had help. We had market access to the world. We also made mistakes along the way. We learned from them, however, that we needed to more open to trade and investment in our own markets. Importantly also, we became an enthusiastic supporter of WTO negotiations, as well as a participant in a broad range of trade agreements with both developed and developing countries. Having lived through advances and setbacks in economic development, it is with the belief in trade and the commitment to development that I offer my candidacy for the post of Director General of WTO. Once again, I would like to thank you for your time today. Thank you.
Questions, please. Just to let you know as well, the statement of the Minister is available at the back of the room. Yes, the first question, please, for Assis Moreira.
Assis Moreira, Valor Econômico, São Paulo. Mr. Bark, South Korea has already the direction of UN, and South Korea is member of OECD. It means it's supposed to be a club of rich countries. Now it seems to be the rotation for developing countries. So you have maybe already two weaknesses. How do you think you could have support here at WTO in this scenario?
Well, thank you for the question. Maybe I should respond to you in a reverse order. In other words, you mentioned rotation between region or rotation between developed versus developing country. You should consider this in the whole process, but not as a first criteria to choose the Director General to lead this organization, which is very technically oriented kind of organization. And also, when you say the UN head of UN is from Korea, and also we are the member of OECD, but what about our status? I think within the WTO, you can go back to the GATT before WTO. We became a contracting party of GATT in 1967, and from then on we have made a lot of economic development. But in certain areas, we still keep the status of developing country within the context of WTO. So in a way, we are a developing country. Of course, for many subjects and areas where you are required to do something as advanced countries, we are voluntarily accepting those kind of obligations for most of the areas, except some sensitive areas like agriculture. But technically speaking, we are a developing country within the context of WTO. Thank you.
Questions? Yes, Daniel Prusen, please.
Yes, Mr. Bark, Daniel Prusen from BNA. Following up a little bit on my colleague's question, your candidacy came as a surprise, I think, to many of the trade diplomats here, particularly because there is an assumption amongst many that not only is it the turn of developing countries, but it's turn of the regions who have not had their chance, in particular Latin America and Africa. So I was wondering why Korea decided to, if I describe it as such, skip the queue a bit and to present its candidacy. Why do you think, why did you come to the determination that it was not necessarily the turn of Latin America or Africa? Thank you.
So I don't want to repeat the argument regarding rotation of the region or rotation between developed and versus developing country. But let me just say to you, my candidacy, you can decompose into two parts. One is my government submit my candidacy, and then I claim myself I'm qualified. So in the first front, Korea is the biggest, one of the biggest beneficiary out of very liberal global trading system. We make a huge economic development out of international trade. So maybe it's time to make some contribution to the organization which is dealing with the governance of international trade, which is WTO. Second background is that, again, I said that in the outset, we make economic development out of trade. So I have a conviction that trade can be used as a tool for economic development. So maybe we can share this kind of experience with many developing member countries of the WTO. This is the second kind of background why Korea submit my name as a candidacy. Third one, given the division over many different negotiation issues among many different groups, I think somebody like Korea, somebody like me from Korea can intermediate and have some kind of consensus or facilitate the dialogue so that they can understand each other's restrictions and positions so that we can come up with some kind of compromise solution. Those are the kind of three kind of elements in the background why Korea want to put my name as a candidacy. However, but in addition, I think as I said, I have been spending my almost 40 years of my life and my career is in the field of trade. So as an academician, researcher, and practitioner, I think I have diverse experiences, especially I was a minister for trade, but also I was a chairman for Korea Trade Commission, which is the trade remedy agency. So I can understand both sides of trade policy, so which is much more attractive or more kind of qualification for the candidacy for the WTO Director-General. So I just want to say this to you. And one more thing is, my life, I grew, in Korea. I don't want to say my age, but I see when I was a primary student how poor we were. I vividly remember in my mind, and I can see huge economic development. So my life is with my Korean economic development. So with this, I can encourage developing member countries that they can share our experience together. Thank you.
La prochaine question est pour Marie-Noël.
The next question is from Marie-Noël. Marie-Noël, the floor is yours. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Bark. I would like to know which countries are already supporting you.
You mean in this candidature? I don't know. I spoke with many ambassadors, but they don't show any of their judgment. I think they are actually evaluating my presentation and Q&A sessions and those kind of things. But maybe you may ask, this question because I don't belong to any regional group. We may say Northeast Asia, but we don't have yet some kind of three-country community, even though we are now regularly meet among Korea, Japan, China. But I think, the fact that we don't belong to any regional group make my candidacy more independent, more neutral, so that I can do my DG job, if elected, much better, much more neutral way. Thank you.
The next question for Jamil Chada. Jamil, you have the floor.
Mr. Bark, I'm a journalist from Brazil. My question is about exactly this point of development in South Korea. You mentioned how trade helped the country in the last 40 years to come to a new status, even. But how important was it policy, space policy, policy space, thank you, policy space to actually develop your industry, your local industry? How much was that important in your own economy so you could reach this point today?
Well, I didn't study this, but I know policy space of Korea's trade policy. They utilize this for the benefit of, for example, shortage of the food sometimes. And in other words, government use this kind of policy space to control the inflation. For that matter, they do some kind of policy space. Other than that, we maintain, even though we have a huge water between bound and applied rate, we maintain applied rate as much possible. And in fact, if I remember correctly, in 1980, when Korea was facing huge difficulties in terms of worst agricultural harvest and the second oil price shock, so we are having tremendous kind of difficulties. But through that 1980 and 1981 period, Korean government unilaterally, reformed the whole tariff structure to lower the level, I mean, not bound level, but the applied level at around 8% as a kind of single unit, single level for all tariff. Because in that way, we can promote more efficient resource allocation from outside to inside. So Korea didn't use much of the policy space for its own economic development. That's what I want to say. Yeah.
Questions? Yes, please.
Hitoshi Ito from Kyoto News, Japanese news agency. I understand you have been involved in a free trade agreement negotiations among your country and Japan and China. So how do you see the current situation where many WTO countries are focusing rather on bilateral or plurilateral negotiations than multilateral ones?
Very important question, but I cannot say that FTAs the WTO can control. You shouldn't do this because you are undermining the multilateral trading system. It's kind of reality. I don't want to give you my value judgment whether which one is causing which. Maybe we can say many things, but we have to accept the reality that. Regionalism and multilateralism should live together. But the thing is, we hope the multilateralism should be in a very strong, very effective position. But the one thing we can observe is that the individual bilateral FTAs, we have so many proliferation of that kind of FTA, but we can see some kind of new trend. They are going back to the little bit bigger FTAs in the Asia-Pacific region and also East Asia. where more than 15, 16 countries are participating together. So maybe I hope this kind of movement can come to the stage where this kind of regionalism could be integrated into the multilateral trading system. So I think when you pursue this kind of regionalism, we always have to keep that in mind that, you should be compatible with each other and compatible with the WTO framework. And also at the same time, WTO should do its part more to make them compatible to each other and also with the WTO framework. But unfortunately, we don't have any clear definition, some element in Article 24 of the GATT, and because we are still discussing it in the negotiations. But once we have some improvement or progress, then maybe we will have a more effective way of not controlling, but coordinating with the regionalism. Yes.
For Ravi and then Tom.
Mr. Bark, my name is Ravi Kant. Wondering you would have been asked this question. If it is not asked, I want to ask you, namely, how do you perceive this single undertaking? And if you have to get a breakthrough in the Doha trade negotiations, how would you go about this?
Yes, there are many opinions on this single undertaking things. But at this moment, I think we should respect the single undertaking approach for Doha development agenda negotiations. And we are all committed, whether we can take a sequential approach or two-step approach, I don't know. But we have to make our concerted efforts to finish Doha as a single undertaking. And maybe after that, we should open some discussion among members whether we can use single undertaking along with some other methodologies, or it's open. But I don't think it is the right time to talk about whether single undertaking is the big hurdle for having Doha round get done. Yeah, thank you.
Tom Miles, please.
Tom Miles from Reuters. First of all, sincere apologies for being late. I was unavoidably late. Sorry about that. So I apologise if you've talked about this already. But following up on the question about regional trade agreements, South Korea, I think, is possibly the only country that is in both RCEP and TPP, and so you are, in a way, the most attached to the idea of regional trade agreements as being the way forward, which seems to be, as Ravi was, I think, suggesting, it was sort of antithesis of those wanting to stick with the Doha agenda. I wonder, since you obviously believe in these RTAs being realised in the future, in the next few years, what vision do you have for the WTO multilateralising or bringing these in some way? I mean, can the WTO do that? Is it the job of the WTO? Because Richard Baldwin has suggested there needs to be a WTO 2.0 to manage these RTAs. What do you think the WTO should do about them?
Well, I know you have quite interest in this question, and I want to correct you one thing. We don't participate TPP as of now. We are only participating in RCEP, and a country like Korea, located and surrounded by all East Asian, colleague countries, I think we have no other choice. We are not the initiator of this RCEP. I think ASEAN has been trying, this kind of discussion very effectively, and we just joined the RCEP because among many participants, we already have individual bilateral FTAs. If we succeed in a very high level and comprehensive RCEP, then we can gain a lot because, the businessmen, they don't have to worry about individual rules of origin. Maybe we have a much more mutual recognition, something like that. So we have a lot to gain by participating in RTA. But you can say that maybe this will distract the energy from the multilateral trading system. But in the case of Korea, well, I'm a trade minister. We placed highest priority in the multilateral setting. We are a small country. I mean, we can say that Korea make a huge economic development, but multilateral trading system is the system we should belong to. So we never give a weaker meaning to WTO or multilateral trading system. In fact, until even early 1990s, we never have any single FTA until we see that Mexico is joining the NAFTA, and Mexico and Korea is always competing to each other in U.S. market. So we are kind of shocked, and then we try to find out any kind of option or alternative to make more liberalization of the economy. That's why we go there, and every time we go for the bilateral or even it's very early stage, three country with Japan and China or RCEP, we are emphasizing that it should be very comprehensive. It should be very high standard. But what do we mean by standard? We have to have a clear definition in the WTO or GATT, but we don't have that yet. So, but we are trying to do this, so that in the end, if we have to be reintegrated into WTO, we should be ready. That's our Korea's trade policy has been for quite some time. Okay, I will just stop there. Okay, thank you.
Questions? Dan.
Yes, Mr. Park, I wanted to ask a question about Korea's experience in development and the chaebols, which were so key to Korea's economic development. Is this, the chaebols were beneficiaries of government support. Is this a model that other developing countries should follow?
Well, if you look at countries like Taiwan, and we call it in here Chinese Taipei, and Singapore, and Korea, Hong Kong, we are taking all kind of different development approach rather than we share with them. In other words, there's no right policy or wrong policy. We happen to take the policy which emphasize more our own capacity rather than inviting foreign investment and then let them do their work in their own economy. This is a key difference. We borrow money from outside, but in a way, in the early stage, we support our domestic producers because we are so underdeveloped. So simply, this is a different approach. But the end result, we have big companies like Samsung and other, you already know a few of them already. So there's a pros and cons, In Korea, we talk about economic democratization. What does that mean, So we have to still, talk about and discuss within the country and try to find a better way of kind of leveling off between the, big group and the small and medium-sized groups. I think we need some creativity in resolving and to have a balance. But I wouldn't say that this model should be, should be transferred to other countries. But the thing is, one thing, but even though this model is different, but one thing which is applying cross-cutting is this. We took the more external-looking, outward-looking kind of trade policy. So that trade should be the core of economic development during the whole development process. And of course, you have to maintain the stable macroeconomic situation. But on top of that, you try to eliminate any kind of bottlenecks which is hindering trade. That's the kind of key of the Korea's trade policy to make a development out of trade. Yes.
Questions? Ravi and then Tom again.
Minister, can I come back to this, your emphasis on trust and rebuilding trust? What exactly has happened? Why are you sort of emphasizing this issue?
Well, lived, as many, some of you maybe, I lived through many years in my life. And I was at a small, college as an assistant professor, and then moved to research organization and do some management, and went to the big university where we have 30,000 people, students, and almost 2,000 faculty members. I was in charge of international affairs of the whole, faculties and students. And also, I became a minister for trade. So I see, whenever I move to some organization, I mean, as a leader, especially as time goes by, especially today, unless you talk to the people, not only high-level people, but talk to the people horizontally for the sake of your own work, rather than just talking to other people all the time. I'm not that kind of person, but any kind of work, you should talk to any kind of people. And this way, I can gain some credibility, and also I can encourage the people who are working with me. So I heard that WTO is a member-driven. Then you are in a very difficult difficult location, whether how can you lead so many different members? How can you lead the secretariat, which has 600 people? Then you have to gain some kind of trust. I don't see, right now Geneva has a problem like this. But if I come into this kind of new position, that's the way I want to conduct my work at the beginning, so that we can, find out what are the problems and what are the solutions. I don't know whether we can make it out of only getting a trust. You can make a solution, but at least that's the kind of first thing I should do. That's what I want to emphasize that. Yeah.
We have time for one more question, and it's for Tom Miles. Tom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Keith. A lot is obviously made of problems in Pascal Lamy's tenure with the Doha round, but one thing that has moved along is accessions to the WTO. There have been quite a few accessions, and there are now moves to make accessions easier. But there's very few countries that are still not in touch with the WTO. One of them, obviously, is North Korea. If you were the DG, would you have any hope? Would you be proactive in trying to make overtures to North Korea to open dialogue? Because, you may say that it's a long way from joining, but it can at least be in dialogue. Would you be proactive on that front, or do you think you'd have no role whatsoever?
Well, when I say open dialogue, I can say, within the Geneva community, and also with outside Geneva or outside WTO. So certainly this kind of hope I can have, but right now, given the situation I know about North Korea, I have a hope. But it's a really, I cannot make any comment on this, really. Yeah. I have a hope, strong hope, but yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bark. Thank you to everyone here. Just to let you know, at 1 o'clock, we will have the final of our press conferences involving the candidates with Roberto Azevedo of Brazil. We'll see you at 1. Thank you.